Hey guys, Shane Walser here, Yak and Leech Crappie Guides. Here back on High Rock today to kind of go over some post-spawn crappie fishing. These fish have moved up, spawned, done their thing. You're probably still going to catch a few spawning fish here and there, but for the most part, the spawn's pretty much over with. So we're going to kind of go over some things of what you'll probably see, some frustrations you'll probably deal with, and go from there with it. So. These fish moved up, spawned, and they started moving back out. Some of them is going to move back out to 10, 12, 14 foot of water. Some of them is liable to go a little bit deeper than that. But after these fish spawn, they're going to get a little bit harder to catch sometimes. You can still go out and catch numbers, catch the feeding fish, and get on them. But the big thing is if you don't find the active fish and the feeding fish, don't be afraid to move to another location. But don't cancel that location out. Keep it in the back of your mind. If you know there's fish there and they're just not eating at 8 o'clock in the morning, come back in there at 9:30, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, a little bit later, or later in the afternoon. It may be an afternoon bite to get onto it. So, but what you're going to see is these fish are going to get finicky through the post-spawn part. To me as a guide, and I think some of them, look at it, the post-spawn is some of the hardest fishing to do through the year. But like I said, it is very doable. Cover your water. I still like to fish a lot of minnows whenever I'm doing in the post spawn. But if I can get them on a jig bite, that's what I like to do if I can get on them. So what we're looking at now is Rockport Rattler jig head. I like to run a 1/16 with Crappie Monster. Uppercut. Colors of the bait, personal preference. I don't really have a whole lot of exactly which ones I like. I let the fish tell me what they want to eat. Yeah, there's 4 or 5 colors I like to go to start off, but if they're not hitting it, I'm not scared to change it up, go to something different, let the fish tell you what they want. The good thing about the Rockport Rattler is if you get these fish and they're not on a jig bite and you want to go to a minnow, and again, with the technology we have, this Rockport Rattler jig head, it's actually got a rattle inside. So you can fish this jig head with a minnow, and when that minnow's swimming around, this thing is just rattling, making all kinds of noise, and hopefully draw these fish back up to it and give you a little bit more of a chance to get a bite, give you a little bit more of an edge. So when we're still chasing these fish post-spawn, I'll still run double minnow rigs with these on my 14-foot poles and put just the minnows on and let the minnows do the work. Let them rattle these things up, change it. These fish are used to seeing bait. They're chasing bait way back in the coves and back out to the water. They're seeing a lot of bait right now. So anything that you can do that can make that presentation just a little bit different will possibly get you some more bites on what you need to do. So colors, baits, rattles, anything like that, they give you a little bit of an edge. Don't be afraid to try it. So if you're coming down to the lake, you don't have a boat. These fish are in post-spawn. They're not on the banks anymore. They're not around the boat docks real well. They're not in the fishing areas. Go to Navionics web app. If you go to navionics.com, they have a web app that you can click on your phone, on the website, pull up all these lakes in the surrounding areas all over, and it'll show you the lake maps. Find some of these areas that you can go fish that have steep drop-offs. Maybe they come off the bank 10, 15, 20 foot, then it drops off to a 15 foot of water or better once it comes off. Find those areas that are legal to fish. Don't go pull up on somebody's back door and say, hey, there's deep water, and go fish on their docks. But find these areas, the bridges and stuff. Like you can see behind us, number 8 bridge, it gets hammered with fishing down here. They catch a lot of fish with it. But find these areas to where you can do it. Find these drop-offs in this post-spawn, because these fish are going to set back out. Any of them deep drops on those ledges, they can get up to shallow to chase the bait when they need to, but they can also get back to deep water cover whenever they need to feel protected. Fishing on the dock this time of year can be great. Adding a little bit of structure, a little bit of timber, Christmas trees if you want, hardwoods. A lot of guys are putting PVC in, but just check your lakes, make sure that you can do it in the lakes you're fishing. But putting you some structure around the piers, these fish are going to go underneath the piers to the shade. Summertime, dock shooting, that can end up being another really good thing to do, especially when the sun gets high and these fish are searching for that cover. certain creeks don't have a ton of deep water. You may have 12 foot of water in that creek, so they're gonna, if they're not gonna go out in the river and run down the river, they're gonna get to the best cover they can, which is gonna be the deeper docks. So just key in on those areas and that can help you as well.
Time right now.
Yeah, we're on the edge of summer. We've got these nice, beautiful 48 to 55 degree mornings, and then, you know, we're getting up in 70s and 80s during the day. So these fish are still going to transition. This water temperature is still going up, and you're still going to find some of these post-spawn fish up in shallow water. Some of these fish don't leave the shallow water, but to go out and chase them and look at it, don't be afraid to drop back off to that 12 to 15 foot of water right now, because these fish are going to sit back, kind of regain all their composure from the spawn and everything, and then start feeding back up. And then once they get wound up in the summer, they'll be wide open and going again. But just don't hesitate to move around. Try different areas as the day goes on. But always be willing to come back and try that area, especially, like I said, with the new electronics you got now. Them fish are there and they're just not biting. Come back a couple hours later that afternoon. Those fish are probably going to just on a feeding cycle where they just don't eat at that point in time. All right, guys. Shane Walser, Yak and Lake's Crappie Guides. If you've got questions or need anything, make sure to go to HighRockLakeLife.com or the High Rock Lake Life Facebook page and check out all these fishing things. We're going to have these tips and tricks going through the year, and also got other things coming for other things of fishing as well. So stay tuned and keep informed, because you're not going to want to miss the information that's coming.